So this is our first assumption, how to get cost of goods sold, cost of ending inventory. Right now, let's go to our second assumption. So on your slide, page 31. Slide page 31 is our second assumption. Hi, please come back. Our second assumption is weighted average method, 加权平均法. So what does it mean? It means we mixed all inventory we have to make it become one new inventory. Okay? Hello, please. So our second assumption, 加权平均法, weighted average method, what does it mean? For all the inventory we have, we mixed all together to make it become one new inventory. So what does it mean? For example, beginning, I have the inventory 10 units. Okay? Each one, the unit cost is $10. What if we have second inventory 11 units? Then unit cost is $12. Okay? So we have a two inventory with different unit cost. So our second assumption is what? We mixed they together to make it combine, become totally one inventory. Okay? So how to make it mix together to become one? So based on this, mix together's 拉来 okay? So 把它拉来变成一个. So how to mix together? Totally become how many? 10, 11, so will become 21 unit, right? So for this 21 unit totally mixed together 拉来. So you need to get what? New unit cost. So how to make it become new unit cost? So what we need to do is for the 21 units because mixed together, so you have to get the new unit cost. 新平均成本，平均单位成本。How to do it? Hi, Claire. How to do it? To get your new unit cost. 加起来 How to 加起来 10 units, each one $10, right? So for like 10 units, each one $10 plus 11 units, each one $12. So 11 units, each one $12 divided by your total units, right? So 10 plus 11. So what's our new unit cost? How much? 10, 0, 5. 11.05. Okay? So when we mix together to make it become one new inventory. So you have to get new unit cost. So based on the new unit cost, we can get our cost of goods sold, our cost of ending inventory. Okay? So step one, what should we do? Compute our new average unit cost. How to get our new average unit cost? Mixed all inventory together. Right. Then make it become your new one. Okay? Any questions? No problem? So after this, since they become one inventory, so one inventory, 21 unit. Unit cost 11.05, right? So we use that number to figure out our cost of goods sold and our cost of ending inventory. So times the units we sold, you can get cost of goods sold times the units unsold. Then you can get your ending inventory. Okay, so that's how we do our second assumption. Any questions? So second assumption, for all inventory we have, we mix together to make it become the big one. Okay, so become the big one. So what's the big one? Mix all together become B1, 21 unit. So since we mix all together, so for that 21 unit, you should understand, figure out what's the new unit cost. Okay, so after we got a new unit cost, since we mix all together become one, right? So we use that to times unit we sold, right? So we can get cost of goods sold. We use this to times unit unsold, so you can get still how many in your company ending inventory. Okay, any questions? No problem. Okay, so if you don't have any questions for this, then let's practice it. How to get cost of goods sold, cost of ending inventory using second assumption. Oh, before we practice, could you guess what kind of company will make this assumption? Weighted average cost. What kind of company they think their inventory totally the same, not different, right? So we mix all together, it's okay. Actually, I took the answers already. So what kind of company? Their inventory quite similar, the same. So it doesn't matter which day you buy it, they are the same. So you can mix all together, make no difference. Like what? The desk you use, right? So totally the same. So no matter which day I buy the first deck, I buy the second deck, no different. Okay. So for your desk, for your chairs, for your computers, for your furnitures, not different. Okay. So what kind of company they will make this kind of assumption? When their inventors quite the same. Okay. So quite the same. Or they have a similar inventories also a large quantities. Okay. So like a chairs, like desk, like furnitures, because their inventory quite similar the same and they have a large quantities, so they will make this second assumption. Okay, so let's go to slide page 36. Totally the same, the same, the same case. Okay, so we have a 1 2 3 4 four inventories, but don't forget, who are you? You are periodic, 定期盘存制 lazy guy. So when we compute these two numbers, don't forget end of period. On last day, we do our job, right? So how? Second assumption, weighted average. So what does it mean? Combine all inventories we have. So right now, how many inventory we have? 4, right? So based on these 4 inventories, okay, mixed together, trying to get what? Get the new unit cost. Okay, so when we mixed all together, what's our new unit cost? Our new unit cost is what? Mix all together, right? So our first inventory 10 units, unit cost $100. Our second inventory 20 units, unit cost $110. Our third inventory 30 units, unit cost $120. Our last inventory 40 units, unit cost $130. Divided by total unit, 10 plus 20 plus 30 plus 40. So we got the new unit cost, how much? $120, okay? And based on the $120, we use it to times the unit we sold and the unit unsold. So how many units we sold? 55, right? The case told you 55. So based on the new unit cost 120 times 55 unit. So you can get your cost of goods sold. Okay? So use the same new unit cost 120 times the unit unsold. So how many units unsold? Totally 10, 20, 30, 40. Totally 100, right? So based on the 100 unit, total unit we have, minus the unit you sold, 55, okay? So you can get what? You can get your ending inventory. Okay? So that's our second assumptions. So what's our second assumptions? Mixed all inventory together. Okay? Since we mixed all inventory together, then we get new unit cost. Based on new unit cost times the unit you sold, you got cost of goods sold, times the unit unsold, you got in the inventory. Okay? Any questions? If you don't have any questions, so please go to your note on page 8. Finish page 8, our second assumption. You can look at the data on your page 7. Page 7, the same data, same information. So based on the data on page 7, finish page 8. When you use the second assumption, weighted average method, 加权平均法。 Okay, if you finish, you can double check the answer right here. The new average cost 4.39. Okay, how to get 4.39? Remember, you are periodic 定期盘存制 lazy guy. So we compute when we compute the numbers on the last day. So remember, for periodic lazy guy, date is not important. So periodic lazy guy, date is not that important. So when you sell the products, not important because you are the lazy guy. Okay, so we mix all inventory together on the last day. How many inventory we have? 1, 2, 3. So you mix these 3 inventory together. Try to get your new unit cost. Okay, so 3 inventory, 2,000, 6,000, 2,000. Okay, so that's why we got our new unit cost based on first inventory, 2,000, second inventory, 6,000 unit, third inventory, 2,000 unit. Okay, so we got a new unit cost, 4.39. Any questions? And based on this, you can use that to get your cost of goods sold. So what's our cost of goods sold? Based on our new unit cost, 4.39 times the unit, total unit we sold, 9,000 unit. Okay. Also, based on the new unit cost, 4.39 times the unit unsold. Okay. So that's how we got cost of goods sold, cost of inventory. Any questions? Okay, so this is our 2 assumptions, FIFO and weighted average cost. So FIFO, what does it mean? First in, first out. We assume the oldest one will be sold first. Okay, weighted average, what's our assumption? We mixed all inventory together to make all inventories become one. Okay, so based on what kind of company you are, you will make different assumption. No problem? Okay, so we dumped FIFO weighted average when you are lazy guy, periodic 定期盘存制. Okay, so right now we become hard worker, perpetual. Okay, so when you are the hard worker, perpetual 永续盘存制, remember date is very important. Okay, date. Are you done already? Okay, so let's go to hard worker, perpetual. On your slide, page 37. Slide page 37. When you are hard worker, perpetual, 永续盘存制. So what's the difference? Remember, when we sold inventory, we have to compute cost of goods sold. We have to record cost of goods sold. Okay? So remember, when you are hard worker, perpetual, which date we sold inventory is very important. Okay? So we compute cost of goods sold every time when we sold it. So here told you when we compute cost of goods sold. We compute our cost of goods sold when? Every time we sold it. So remember, when you are a hard worker, perpetual, date, date, date is very important about the date. Okay? So before you sell your inventory, you should understand how many inventory you have, right? Because based on the inventory you still have on hand, we are going to sell it. So remember, before you sell it, you should understand how many inventory you still have on hand. Okay? It's very important. It's very important because always you will forget it. So inventory on hand is quite important. Okay? So I use the one simple case to let you understand how many inventory you still have before you sell it. Here, simple case. Remember, perpetual perpetual 永续盘存制 hard worker. So what does it mean? Every time when you sell the inventory, you have to compute cost of goods sold. Every time you sell it, you have to compute your cost of goods sold. Okay? So the date is quite important. So you sold cost of goods sold on January 3rd, January 6th. Okay? So let's look at the first one. You sold 2 units. You try to get cost of goods sold, right? So could you tell me your first sold, how many inventory you have before you sell it? Your first sold on January 3rd, right? So January 3rd, you are going to sell 2 units. Before you sell it, could you tell me how many units you have right now? Right now means January 3rd. How many units you have? 5, right? Remember, you only have these 2 units. So there's an inventory you have. Okay? Don't look at the last 2. Okay? That's for future, not for today. Today is January 3rd. Okay? So last 2, that's for future, not for today. Remember. So that's why date, date, date is very important. So when we are going to sell inventory, we have only 5 units. Okay? From your January 1st and January 2nd. Any questions? Then could you tell me, from your second sold on January 6th, how many units, how many inventory you have? How many? 10 units, right? So why is 10 units? Remember, after you first sold, you have a 2 unit, third unit, right? But you sold 2 units. So it means what? On January 3rd, you have only 3rd unit on hand. Okay? So January 3rd, I have a 5 unit, but I sold 2 unit, right? 5 unit, I sold 2. So I still have a 3 unit left. Okay? So I still have a 2 inventory from January 4th, January 5th. So before I have a second sale, I have 3 units from January 3rd, 5 units from January 4th, 2 units from January 5th. Okay, so I have totally 10 units. Any questions? No problem. It's quite basic, important concept. Before we use perpetual 永续盘存制 hard worker, the date is very important. So you should understand on that date how many inventory you have. Okay? Any questions? No problem? If you don't have any problems, so based on this, right now, we want to make our first assumption, FIFO. Okay? No problem? So our first assumption, FIFO, means what? Be careful about the date. Be careful about the date. So why not? Since we use perpetual, 永续盘存制, hard worker, perpetual. So you should understand the date is very important. So we sold the inventory when? On September 10th. We sell it. Okay? So on this date, September 10th, we sold 55 units. So on this date, how many inventory we have? The inventory we have is from the first three inventory, okay? So this is the inventory you have. Okay, so totally I have the inventory 10, 20, 30, okay? It's not including the last one. Why? Last one is for the future, okay? Not for today. So based on this, still, how to do the FIFO, the first assumption? First in, first out, right? Any questions? No problem? But FIFO actually is quite easy, simple. The totally the same as periodic 定期盘存制. The only thing you should be very careful is about the date. Okay? So let's look at your note. It's quite simple. So look at your note on page 9. Page 9. Page 9. So please finish page 9. Perpetual with the first assumption, FIFO. Page 9. Remember, page 9. Perpetual. So what does it mean? Perpetual 永续盘存制 means you compute cost of goods sold when inventory sold. Okay, so for perpetual, the date is very important. The date is very important. Okay, so when we sold inventory, remember, you sold 2 times. Means what? You had to compute cost of goods sold 2 times. So based on the first sold, trying to get cost of goods sold, how much? Based on the second sold, trying to get the cost of goods sold for second time. Okay? FIFO, first in, first out. So it's totally the same as before. So I think you can finish it by yourself. Okay, are you finished? For the first 4,000 units we sold, right? 54. So you sold it from the first inventory. So you from your first inventory you sold 2,000, right? So this 2,000 you sold on which date? On say March 19, right? But still not enough, right? So that's why you go to the second inventory. For the second inventory, you still need to sold how many? 2,000. Okay? Because totally we sold 4,000. So that's for your March 19. So that's how we find out cost of goods sold for your March 19. How about your second sold? 5,000. Continue. 54 from your first inventory. So since we sold our first one, so we go to our second one. So second one, we still have 4,000 units, right? So we sold 4,000 units for your March 31. But it's not enough, right? So we continue to our last inventory. So last inventory, we just need to sold 1,000 for your March 31st. So we still have 1,000 inventory left. So unsold should be 1,000. So that 1,000 unsold, this is your ending inventory. Okay, any questions? So FIFO is quite simple. We just based on first in, first out. Continue from your first inventory and keep going to your last one. That's it. But did you find out? When you compare to page 7, what did you find out? Page 9 compare with page 7 when you use periodic FIFO. Did you find out anything? The same. So if you look at page 7 and page 9, you will find out the answers totally the same. Why? Because we sold the same inventory. Okay? Just the difference is when you compute the number. You compute the number on sale date or you compute the number on last day. But we sold the same inventory. So you will get the same answers. Okay? So when you compare page 7 and page 9 for FIFO, actually you will get the same answers. Okay? Any questions? So this is page 9. Our answers. So totally from your first cost of goods sold plus your second cost of goods sold, your first cost of goods sold plus your second cost of goods sold, you will get your total cost of goods sold. Okay, and for your ending inventory, $4,750. So you can compare with your page 7. You will find out the same. Okay, any questions? No problem. Then let's go to our last method and the most complicated method. Most complicated method. No problem? Okay, so please go to your slide. Slide here on your page 42. I just mentioned, when you compare your periodic with perpetual, when you use FIFO, you will get the same answer. Okay, so FIFO is quite simple, easy. So when you use the FIFO, no matter you use perpetual or you use periodic, you will get the same answer. Okay, because we sell the same inventory. Since we sell the same inventory, that's why you will get the same answer. Okay? No problem? Okay. So let's go to slide page 44. We are hard worker perpetual, but we use weighted average method, second assumption. But here, for perpetual, when we use weighted average method, the second assumption, we call it moving average method. We call it moving average method, 移动加权平均法。We call it moving average method, 移动加权平均法。Why is that? Because remember, weighted average method means what? We mixed all inventory together to get a new one, right? But periodic, when we mixed all inventory together, periodic, we mix it on last day. How about perpetual, when we mixed all inventory together every time we sell it, okay? So for perpetual, we have to compute our cost of goods sold for every time you sell it. So for our first sold, at this moment, we have to get our cost of goods sold. In order to get our cost of goods sold, what should we do? We had to compute and get new average unit cost. Okay, so that's for your first one. How about you have a second sold? So what should we do? Perpetual hard worker. Every time you sell the inventory, every time you have to compute cost of goods sold. So when you compute your cost of goods sold, what should we do? Second assumption, mixed all the inventory you have on hand, right? So you have to get your second new average unit cost. That's for your second one. How about if you sold for the third time? So what does it mean? You had to get your cost of goods sold again. In order to get your cost of goods sold again, means you have to compute your new average unit cost again. So did you find out? You have how many new average cost? So many. Depends on how many times you sold. You had to compute how many times. So did you find out why some company prefer to be lazy guy? Because for hard worker, it's quite difficult. When we sold 1,000 times, you had to compute 1,000 times, you know? So it's quite hard. So for your new average unit cost, you have so many new one, right? So that's moving. Moving one means what? You every time you have a new average unit cost. Okay, so that's why we call it moving. So for perpetual weighted average method, we call it moving average method. 移动加权平均法. Any questions? No? Okay, then let's take a break. Later we practice it.